responsible for me. I've had
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mancunian Way. Tonight, we've got a great panel. Dharmesh, Rich, and Pat. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we?
happy. It's the new dawn. The night has ended. The new dawn is beginning. We've got, the last couple of weeks played our youngest team since Pep joined the club, and I think we're starting to see the signs of what City will be over the next few years. Some of their new players are going to be playing a lot more, so I think it's an exciting time.
Yeah, definitely. Dharmesh, Pat, how about you, John? How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Nice win yesterday. Great first half, not so great second half, but good result. And new players playing well, so nice to see.
Yeah.
For me, it's the same. Excitement. I think I was on Dab's channel when I said if somebody came from a time machine, or if I went back in the days and met the younger me, let's say 2 seasons ago, even last season, then I showed them a picture of KDB, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Foden, and Jack Grealish sitting on the sideline, playing away at Spurs. I'll tell my future me to piss off and say, stop doing Photoshop, because that was just showing that there's a new generation coming in. And you know what excited me the most is these the new players. They had no fear for Spurs. There was no fear or mistakes or those bozo moments, we so call them. They didn't care. They're like, we're here to play football. We're here to just win this game. So I'm excited for the future, and I hope Pep Guardiola continues this. I even said it at the beginning of the season, when things went bad, saying, if he continues playing the youngsters until we get to summer, I'll just be smiling, saying it's fine. Play all those senior, I like calling them pensioners, but it's a bit of a disrespectful, but play the senior players on Saturday. I want to see the whole catalogue, KDB, all of them on Saturday, because I also want to win the FA Cup. But thank you for having me, and thank you. Big up Martin, and big up everyone on the panel. And the guys also, big up in the chat. And big up to you, Adam. Adam, you seem to be gifting a lot of memberships, so big up to you.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, for gifting the membership. It is much appreciated. And whoever's grabbed that, thank Adam in the comments. As you can see,
more than you believe. More than you believe, I'm happy.
And again, thank you, Adam, for gifting 5. So that's 6 in total. It's appreciated, mate. And obviously, there is a elephant missing in the room. No offense, that's just you know, we've got to say he isn't here. Some of you might be aware of what happened a couple of streams ago. I'm not going to go into it for personal reasons, but Martin isn't going to be on tonight. He is in the background dealing with the comments, so he will be putting them up. We'll try and read some out, but if we don't, we apologise. But it's really difficult to do comments and do the show without having full control. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But Martin will be back at the weekend. He has said that he wants to come back for Sunday's post-match. So, yeah.
He must be feeling confident then. He must be feeling confident we're going to beat Plymouth then.
Yeah, he must be. I'm sure we'll get into that later, Rich. The one thing I'm going to quickly get onto is because obviously it's been breaking news in the last hour. The Liga president, Tebas. Rich, how
Tebas.
Yeah, he's recently been making a few statements saying that in 2023 he had basically called us out to the European Union. Again, with all the financial charges, saying that, you know, we've been, again, you know, doing naughty deeds with our financial transactions in Europe, and he reported us in 2023. Obviously, this has hit the news big time again because it just brings 115 back into the arena, because like we haven't heard that enough of late. I'm not a financial expert. I can only read on the news, but I'm going to bring in our financial expert, Rich, to maybe explain a little bit more because he's on top of it more than I am.
Yeah, it just looks like he's putting a complaint about how City use marketing companies and everything companies to spread the cost across the group, which is something that nearly every major multinational in the world does. So, you know, including nearly every big European company. So it's a very strange thing to take, and I actually think he's actually opened himself up to a libel charge because he's actually used City and Enron in the same term, and Enron was fraud and, you know, quite serious issues. So I suspect that at some point in the not too distant future he's going to have to apologise, and I suspect he'll be apologising because of what things he said, which interestingly, it just shows his kind of Trump-like hubris that he says a comment like that. No, all the journalists are so careful that they use the word allegations or they don't liken it to anything else, so that they make themselves very hard to take legal action. Even if we're innocent, they use inference, they don't use statements. And Tebas has actually come out and made statements. So I would imagine that, you know, in the not too distant future, Tebas will be issuing an apology as quietly as he can, because he's probably crossed the line, and you know what he said is quite simply wrong. It's not even related, you know, to any of the allegations. No one's alleging we're hiding, you know, pretending we've got billions of dollars in bank accounts that isn't there, etc. Like, you know, his comments suggest. So yeah, I think we'll just watch, you know, take this with a pinch of salt and watch what happens in time.
Yeah, I mean, he's not exactly popular in his own league, to be fair, is he? I mean, he's had a few run-ins with Barcelona, Real Madrid, you know, so I think throwing accusations around another league, I think is just a bit, well, as you said, it's a bit of a misstep. It's a bit of a, you know,
yeah. Well, you know, I think most people are very, very, very careful what they say, you know, when they say it in the newspaper or on, you know, on YouTube, on TV, because, you know, you can infer. I mean, I guess you can talk about allegations and you can say that they may be true, but once you start making statements, or once you start comparing something to something else, which is very different and, you know, very serious, you do open yourself up to, you know, action. And yeah, but he's just trying to take the pressure off, you know, La Liga, where, you know, you've got one club who've basically been allowed to do anything they want, and another club who seem to be at war with La Liga the whole time. And, if you think that the red cartel dominates in the Premier League, it's absolutely nothing compared to the power the two big clubs have in Spain, where they control all the money they control. So it's he's a strange character.
Yeah. The reason that it's flicking back and forth is Marty's trying to remind us that someone has made a super chat. We need to stop you, Rich. Don't talk, don't rant. Stop yourself.
Mancini.
Thank you, Alan, for that. Big up, boys. Big up, Alan. Nice to see you in the chat, mate. And Pat, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I don't take that guy seriously anymore. I don't take him that seriously after the things he's been saying, isn't it? And you're right. He waffles a lot, doesn't he? He argues with his own teams, his own teams in his league. He argues with players. If a player doesn't sign for La Liga, a club, he talks about it in the media in a very funny way. When somebody pays it is close to them, which is part of the rules. Spain started this pay that is close. You don't have to negotiate with the club. He calls it disrespect to the league and the club. And it's 2023. This is 2025. So I don't think anybody took him seriously. This is quite funny, though. You know how the media go and dig up things like this when certain things happen. Funny enough, we won against Spurs, and this just comes up again. And at first, I was a bit nervous. I was like, oh, my God, is this now? He's done it. Then I found out it's years ago. And nobody has spoken about it. And then, you're right, he's backtracking. I've seen some of the statements from Spain. He's backtracking a bit. So, I don't know. I just don't take that Tobias guy. Or is it Tabas? What is it? Is it Tabas or Tobias? Tabas. I don't take him seriously, just with the clown stuff he's talked about in the past. And he has to have evidence. But the only thing I can say is, if he's just waffling and he's making one of those, defamation cases against City, I think City should go after him. I think somebody should finally shut him up.
Well, because
it's defamation, isn't it? Is it? If it's wrong.
Well, if you liken something, Enron was a scandal where it wiped out one of the biggest 5 accounting companies in the world, Arthur Andersen. A company, through accounting fraud, hid billions of dollars of, I think, failed projects and failed investments. They hid them in shell companies. So what City do, and this is what so many companies in the world do, is that if you have a certain type of cost like marketing or scouting and 10 clubs are using it, you'll put it in a separate company and you'll charge each of those 10 clubs for their use of it. And you'll have there's fairly standard accounting rules about how you split the cost. It could be based on the number of hours they use or their revenue turnover, whatever. So it's done fairly, and City do that, and nearly every company in the world does it. And that's what he's fundamentally accusing us. And he's saying that we're doing that to keep some costs out of our books so that we're better for PSR. But that has to be right, because the tax authorities want those costs to be put in the right country. So that's the law determines, and tax law determines where and how you have to do that. So, and to try and liken that, which probably every single one of the 100 biggest companies in Europe all do, to try and liken that to accounting fraud, Enron, the end of Arthur Andersen, shareholders losing, billions and billions of dollars. It's foolish. And it's it's a very, very silly comment that he'll have to backtrack from, because even if every single allegation against City was true, there's actually no allegations in 1% the seriousness of what happened at Enron. So it's just hyperbole, and he'll backtrack, because
isn't it embarrassing though that I don't get it? It's just I just find it simply embarrassing, because he's the president of the league, and the fact that he always goes against. Like, I know that the Prem is not with us, because I'm pretty sure if the Prem loved us, they could have also been fighting against him, because we are part of that brand, Like Cities, I'm pretty sure if they backed us as they, I'm pretty sure your man, I forgot his name, the one this guy,
Masters
would have been, because he is throwing bullets at your brand. But obviously, Masters doesn't like us. The Prem doesn't like us. But it's just It just makes me laugh. He every time he speaks, even the sly comments in the media. I remember I was watching a video and he was commenting about, he was speaking in English and commenting about how things are, and he had the opportunity to point at Man City. He always finds a small opportunity, and he said, "Oh, unlike Man City, some of the clubs here are doing things organic," and then he moves on. I was like, okay, I think there was a clip somebody put it on Twitter, and that was years ago. I was like, this man just has a target. It's just I don't know how far you can go against, because if he talks like that, it's just I think sometimes Man City are a bit nice in certain situations, because even back in the days, some of the comments, I think you can go after him because he's made comments to City. He's also made comments about the owner of City. He's made comments about the board. He called them snakes for leaving Barcelona.
Yeah, he can't help himself at the end of the day.
So he's just mad. He's just mad.
Yeah,
and he's,
before I bring you in, Dharmesh.
He's an openly.
I go, Rich. We've got another gifted 10 membership, so I've got to thank Mark. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate it, mate. Thank you as always. You're a great sponsor of the channel, and we thank you for it. I'd just like to thank Craig as well for his comments earlier about his update with the news, saying that City are going to look at going after Tabas, so we'll still comes basically. Rich, let me bring Dharmesh in because he hasn't had a say yet on this. So go on, Dharmesh. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, like, I don't take Tabas seriously at all. Like, he says so much things, not just about City, but about Barcelona, about Real Madrid. Like, he can't just stay quiet. He needs to be in the limelight. He needs to. He just says whatever comes in his mind. He has no proof of anything. Like, he just says what he thinks, and most of the things which he thinks is wrong. So I don't really care if he says something about City, and I'm happy if City goes against him, just like any lawsuit, anything, I don't care. And I think City is quiet on these topics nowadays just because of the 115 case. Once that 115 case is over, if anyone says anything about City, I think City will be very strong on it. I think they are just keeping it quiet until the decision comes for 115. So I don't have any problem if they don't need to comment anything, because I think most of the people who says something about City, most of it is wrong or just like a saying. There's no proof outside. So I don't really care about whatever he says, and it's all fine.
Wait. Do you think he does it because look, I'm pretty sure if because when Man, he never had, the what makes me laugh is before Pep Guardiola's dominance of England, I never heard anything from him. I seriously never heard any. Even the Robinho times, the time when Robinho was bought, he never said anything that time. It's just when the dominance started. Is it because he's like, okay, this guy is obviously the media doesn't like them. They always think, let me also bring a bit of attention to my league that everybody's forgetting.
I think there are two things. One, it's not just about Pep. I think the all other people, I think Soriano and a couple of other who came from Barcelona, and I think when they suggested to have like a multi-club model to Barcelona, they did not accept that, and they started a multi-club model here instead, and it's growing a lot. And you see how bad Barcelona themselves are doing in terms of financial situation. So I think it's not just Barcelona, also the La Liga overall. It's not doing great compared to Premier League, and Premier League is growing in brand year by year. So I think there's those kind of things as well, which are contributing him being so anti against City and also against Premier League. It's not just about City. He also says a lot of things about the Premier League. So I think, yeah, he's just, I think there's a bit of jealousy involved in terms of how well Premier League is doing and how well City has been doing, and the top clubs in La Liga are not doing that great. So I think it's just that.
Yeah, and I think we can see in the world today that the most important in some ways person in the world runs their country and their politics by just making dramatic statements all the time, and it's actually about owning the media, owning the statements. And I think Tabas, politically and in all sorts of ways, you know, fancies himself as a bit of a Trump, and I think he, you know, he's going to fight for the Spanish league. And you know, the one thing that Tebas does is he fights for the Spanish league and believes in the Spanish league. And is he doing that just so that we have to stop and, you know, and give him praise? I'm going to carry on talking now. You know, not having that. And make him donate again. Tone, thank you very much for the $1.99. That's brilliant. But Ozzy and I can't self-praise about donating, you know, memberships ourselves. It would be we're too modest for that.
It's conflict of interest as well, isn't it? I'm sure, Rich. So,
No, Tabas would probably come in and you know, I think it's money laundering, isn't it? Money laundering.
I'm pretty sure.
Do you know what's embarrassing though? The thing about Tebas, what's embarrassing is it could have been great and amazing if the president of Barcelona and Madrid backed him. You know what I mean? At least you get the backing, but they also
don't like him. Yeah.
I know they don't. You know what? Do you know what Perez said last time when he was trying the City thing? Is like, oh, that man speaks a lot of nonsense. That's what he said. So he doesn't even get the backing from the big boys. So
because you know, one of those clubs is, you know, threatening to the media that they're going to leave the Spanish league because the whole Spanish league is a big you know, conspiracy against them, even though Tebas supports them, ironically. And the other one, despite the fact that they seem to be able to do absolutely anything they want, and you know,
pull those levers,
run up those debts, pull all the most ridiculous levers that are 100 times more dramatic than anything City done, permanently feel that they're being conspired against by the league, and it's just hilarious. It's like you know, the was it the Three Little Pigs or something? You know, you got Madrid, Barca, and Tebas, and they're all just, you know, squabbling amongst themselves. And you know, if they want to make the league better, then start sharing the money with the other, you know, was it 17 clubs in the league who get, you know, next to nothing for playing their season and therefore can't afford the players. And the reason the Premier League is good is because, you know, the team that finishes bottom still gets 100 million or something like that. And so every team in the league has good players. And, you know, sadly in Spain, it's all about making a couple of clubs wealthy. And so they just don't have an interesting league when you know pretty much the three clubs are going to be the top three every single season. This season in, you know, the Premier League, there's 8 teams within 5 points of their Champions League places, so there's 8 teams fighting for probably 3 spots. Now that is madly exciting. In Spain, when's the last time, and who's the last time when someone won the league apart from, you know, the Valencia probably, and that's what 20 years ago.
The last 3 Atletico and Madrid and Barcelona. I think it would be
you just occasionally have something where, you know, even when we talk about this generation of City's dominance, you can still look in recent years, and you've had Leicester, you've had City, you've had Liverpool, you've had Chelsea, you've had United, you know, you've had different teams, and Spain doesn't have that, and Spain certainly wouldn't have Bournemouth and Forest and Brighton and all their Spanish equivalents challenging for European places, and possibly, you know, the Spanish United and the Spanish Tottenham coming in the bottom 5.
Well, like you said, Rich, they don't want it, basically. I mean, they tried to break away from their own league because they felt that the clubs beneath them weren't worthy of them being in the same league as them. You know, so that's kind of, you can see their attitude. We saw how Madrid dummy out when Rodri won the Ballon d'Or. You know, these clubs just get to a point where they're so arrogant and so self-absorbed that they're not even worth talking about. Since Ronaldo and Messi left their league, their viewing figures have just plummeted. You know, the rumours that Messi's going to return to Barcelona and play again just because, like, they need the Messi to come back and
well, they're talking about, you know, will they get Neymar on a free? And I mean, if a football club is looking at Neymar to take them forward, when you know,
Get Suarez
say
back.
it,
Have that
yeah.
front three
But
again.
when a week ago you were watching, Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Bellingham, if someone thinks the answer to that is Neymar, then, and maybe bringing Messi in and Lewandowski and having the oldest front line to ever play in football, I mean, that's just bizarre.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful players in the day. Well, Messi and Lewandowski, but, seriously.
And you know what hurts them the most is what I've noticed about the Spanish league, especially him. What pisses him off the most is the guy who is the star in this league, Vinicius. He is the most undisciplined and the one who causes so much drama, so they can't brand him. You know how, look, Ronaldo was a bit sassy, Messi was a bit sassy, but in a good way. But Vini is just
to play the game.
too much drama. Yeah. They know how to play the game, but Vini doesn't care. He just does whatever he does, so they can't even market him. They can't even put him as the golden boy. Because
the other problem they've got though as well is that he gets a lot of racial abuse in that league. Do you know what I mean? I feel absolutely terrible for him because he does not deserve. No player who's black or any skin color deserves to get that level of abuse. But as you said, he doesn't help himself with his attitude of when he plays the game and the silly kind of fouls, and it just looks really.
Remember, they tried to call him in for a meeting. Remember, they tried to call him for a meeting to sort of calm things down. He gave them the F off and never showed up. So I think it just makes me laugh that, like, I support him with the whole racism thing, how he's fighting it, but I think it pisses off the president, because it's like we are trying to brand him, but he's unbrandable,
The president's also a fairly open supporter of quite hard right politics, and always has been. So the president is not someone who actually, personally seems to, or doesn't seem to invest a whole lot of his energy in that. So I think you've also got a lot of politics in Spanish football, and people, a lot more than there is in, even though we think the red cartel and all the politics, etc., around that, there's a lot of politics in Spanish football. You've got, but Barcelona, you've fundamentally got, a supporter base where many of them think they should be independent and in a separate country from the rest of the Spanish league, and Tebas took hugely strong stances against Barca, saying if Catalonia got independence, you wouldn't be allowed in the Spanish league, and so it's far more political. In the Premier League, it's just about money, and the politics and the attacks on City. It's all about money. It's all about how we can have guaranteed profit streams and really safe profits, and that's kind of the philosophy from a lot of the clubs, particularly owned in the American sports model. And then you have other people from all around the world investing money, and it's all about attention, glory, getting your brand or your country or whatever promoted. And so, but that's all about money, and that, whereas in Spain there's other things at play. They're playing politics. There's things going back between Barcelona and Madrid to Franco. The head of the league has openly sided with one side over the other. So I think it's a different world.
Yeah, it certainly is. Anyway, I think we've spent enough time on Tebas and these ridiculous statements. So
yeah,
I'm going to move on to last night's game. Dharmesh, your thoughts on the lineup? What did you think?
Let me talk! Let me talk! Come on! Let me talk! Come on!
I think that was definitely a move on, and let's talk about the game, which we were.
Yeah.
So I apologize, Dharmesh.
No. Yeah. Yesterday lineup, I was totally happy with the lineup. I wanted to see the young players playing. Great to see Kusanov continuously being chosen to play, and he has been doing great for last 3-4 games. And Mamouche played well. Not so great game yesterday, but played well enough. And Doku was excellent yesterday. So I think the starting lineup was great, and Haaland was much needed. We saw last 2 games when Haaland was not playing, how different was the playing style of City, and we couldn't create much attacks how we can do with Haaland in the team. So it was great to see Haaland, and not just for yesterday game, but in general, we need Haaland. Like we have been moving away from the false nine. We have been used to playing with Haaland now, and I think we miss him a lot when he's not there in the team. So Haaland playing was a big boost for us, and yesterday it was a huge win for us uh, for our top four situation. And I think it is also great that we won at the Tottenham Stadium, because like I wasn't confident yesterday, so it was great to see that lineup and great to see
Our
the
record
result.
there is a bit of a atrocious one. So
Yeah.
you're definitely right. It was nice to walk away with a victory, no matter what it was. And I think like Pat or Rich alluded to it, like it was one of the youngest teams that Pep has put out in recent fixtures. So yeah, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I mean, firstly, Cousinov, you know, wow, like I've got to say, wow about the way he came back from the worst 5 minutes that anyone has ever had going into their Premier League debut. Honestly, that you know what he did there, but since
Can I
then,
just touch on that, Rich? Like you talk about. For me, I mean, I know you get different commentary compared to what we get in the UK because we've got TNT Sports, and I know you have a different provider. But over here, I know that it was the commentary was, and some of the, even from Lescott, which I was really surprised about. They talk about Kuznov being bad, you know, having bad starts and just ultimately just being bad since he's come to the club. And for me, I think for probably a lot of other City fans, he's been absolutely rock solid.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
he has
Oh,
5
yeah,
minutes
no,
of a bad start against Chelsea, and then from there on, he's just been a rock. He's made the odd mistake here and there, but who does it in this team?
not many, not many.
One
And
mistake.
you know
No.
One
what?
mistake. Yeah, yeah.
But
He has
compared
got
to
a
the
little
way
bit of.
compared to the way they're talking about him, it just felt last night they're either just basing their entire opinions on that 5 minutes against Chelsea,
Yeah.
and not bothering
Yeah.
to watch any other game that he's been in. So yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's not unlikely. I mean, you know, half the stories written about games are written after the first half hour of the game, and then they have to try and chug in some stuff in the last 5 minutes when the whole game changes. So I think people have, you know, most people have a lazy narrative, and I think there'll be some people who have a lazy narrative. But actually, I think most City fans who've watched him have thought he's been one of the best players on the pitch every game since Chelsea, and even against Chelsea, after that first 5-10 minutes, he showed a lot of character and came back. But what has amazed me about Cousinov, you know, is we've seen his pace, we knew about his recoveries, we knew about all that side of thing. But he's pinged about 5 or 6 balls in the recent games, and he's pinged balls 40 metres on the head of one of his teammates. And, you know, we haven't had someone who's, you know, not even really Stones does that. Stones does it more, you know, yeah, a bit closer in and everything. But he's done a few passes that I haven't seen anyone do for City since Laporte. Because Laporte was just magnificent in that. But I'm starting to think that maybe Laporte's passing is in his, you know, it's in his kit bag. And if that's the case, now we've got Doku and Savio, that sort of longer ball, being able to come from Cousinov, because obviously we've really had Edison, who's been the main one doing that in recent times. That will be absolutely unbelievable. But to me, the thing at Spurs was, I think, I can't remember whether it was you, Pat, or Dash said fearlessness. It was, fearlessness that was amazing. But it was actually sitting there thinking, you've got a 23-year-old left back, you've got a 20-year-old centre back, you've got a 24-year-old holding midfielder, you've got a front line that's 23, and 20. You've got Mamouche, who's only 25. So you've suddenly, from having a team which at the start of this season was averaging about 30, was suddenly averaging about 25. So that there is just this, it's a generational change, but also a change in how we're playing. In that, and this is what I absolutely love, and I know, Martin will be cringing because he's had to admit that we were right all along. But watching Savio and Docky running.
Let me talk! Let me talk! Let me talk!
Yeah,
oh my, we do let you talk, and then you
watching,
me and Rich for our past wingers we missed. And
watching wingers going past a player instead of stopping, turning around and passing it backwards. It's beautiful watching, and they are both, they're raw, they're young, they're raw. I mean, Doku's had a season and a half in the Premier League from coming from, mid-table in France, and Savio's come from Spain, last year. They're young, they're raw, and they are so talented. And if Doku can just learn to improve that final ball, and the strikers and Haaland can learn where to be to get the ball a bit more. And if Savio can get his finishing back, because I don't want to say Savio learned to finish, because he actually finished quite well for Girona. So if he can get his confidence to finish back, wow, that's going to be exciting watching, those, Marmoush from 10 and, Savio and Doku just running at defences, and, Haaland starting to actually, I think, become a bit more complete in the way he plays for City, in that Haaland's now really starting, I think, to make runs, not for himself, but to create space for others. Whereas I think Haaland until recently is, as he should have been, really playing just for Haaland, as in for him getting goals, him getting in the space, him getting the chances. So, yeah, it's exciting. And, we've got a lot of, we've got Bob to come back and add into that mix. I think Foden still hasn't found his, he hasn't found close to his best form, and that will come back with confidence. I think, we've got, to get the likes of Diaz back fully fit, and then we've got the Ballon d'Or winner to come back in, and, the best player in the world to come back in and, help that youth, etc. around him. So it's exciting. It's optimistic. It's fun. Something interesting to look forward to.
Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I know that the commentary here anyway made out that Doku was the man of the match. Don't get me wrong, he had a really good game, but for me, Kovacic was he was my man of the match. I really thought he was amazing and did so well. For such a young player, the talent that he exudes, I mean, I was listening to a podcast and they were making a comment saying, this is the kind of signing that, yeah, I'll let you do it, Rich.
Is that because is it Miss Snoopy 305?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for $5. I think an absolute spot on comment about Kuznetsov. Not only has he been playing well, but we have blooded him, against Liverpool away at Real, and Chelsea, Newcastle, and Tottenham were big games. Tottenham have beaten us, I think as much as any other Premier League team under Pep, and Chelsea and Newcastle are probably our biggest two rivals, I think, for the Champions League spot. So they're huge games. So thanks very much for that super chat.
Yeah, I was saying this. We were joking around. I think was it yesterday or today? I was on one of the podcasts and we're joking around that we've started calling it the Pep effect. So we're saying Kuznetsov right now reminds us of Ruben Diaz when he came to City before Pep put his hands on him and say, this is how you have to play football. So someone was like, just pray that Kuznetsov doesn't speak English and doesn't listen. He just continues. Because you know what? On a serious note, I can't believe it's been so long since I've seen a defender bail out Ruben Diaz. It's actually Ruben Diaz who bails out our defenders. This guy has bailed out Ruben Diaz 3 times in major situations where Diaz has made a mistake or he's read the game wrong. Kuznetsov has splint all the way from the other side and taking the ball out. I'm like, wow, this kid is just 20. And this is what he's doing.
Son last night, didn't he?
I know.
He slid across and it was beautiful. The timing of that was incredible. And the point I was trying to make earlier is that, he's a signing that Brighton would have made. Do you know what I mean? Because Brighton go for those young, just before they become great, and then they can sell them on for huge amounts of money. we've actually got him now. Do you know what I mean? I think that is some seriously brilliant scouting. And I think we probably have to thank Viana for that, because I think he was a Viana signing. From everything I've heard, it was definitely his decision to bring him into the club now rather than let him go off somewhere else. And then we were regretting that, thinking we could have got him and missed out. So, or we don't have to end up paying Brighton silly money for him. So, yeah, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant scouting. And I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. He really does.
Just on Kusanov, I think his final tackles are great. I think not just against Tottenham, but I think also against Liverpool. He sprinted all the way back and tackled someone and saved a goal as well. I don't remember which attack was it, but he did it a couple of times against Liverpool as well. And also, like, we needed that defensive player who was aggressive. Like, our defensive players have become quite soft, and players could easily run past them. And I think we actually needed someone with pace and with aggression. And I think Kusanov has given us that aggression as well in the defense. And I think when Rodri is back, Rodri is a bit aggressive as well in his tackles and in his interception. So I think when Rodri is back, when we are playing with, let's say, a new right back, I think he would be great. And also considering in the last 3 games, Kusanov has been the one who has always been playing, and the partner has changed. It was Diaz, it was Stones, it was Ake, and Kusanov has been mainstay for the last 3 games, and he has done well in all 3 games with different 3 partners. I think that is most important. It's not like he's playing well alongside Diaz. He has played well alongside Stones. He has played well alongside Ake as well in last few games. So I think that is pretty encouraging as well. That no matter who he plays with, he has his own style. He has his own way of playing, and it's good for City in the long term.
Can I just say
definitely
one
good
thing
comments.
Can I say one thing on the defenders? Wouldn't it be great? And I know it might not happen. I
If
think
they're all fit.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no. I was just saying, wouldn't it be great that our defenders for the past few, even when Walker was here, remember Walker was saying Akanji covers me defensively sometimes when I make mistakes. Wouldn't it be great just to get a competent right back who these centre backs are saying, you know what? I know Walker was it. Remember when Walker came, he brought this like sort of calm down before he became older, where defenders were like, there's Walker there. Wouldn't it be great to just get a confident and a competent right back, and that Kusanov doesn't have to be running, covering somebody? We're like, oh, it's all good that side. It would be amazing. Just imagine that at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think your prayers will probably be answered in the summer, because I think that is probably where City will do some of the summer business.
Yeah, but Gambiaso is also Gambiaso, by the way. People will be surprised.
But talking about right back, I just want to give a quick shout out to Guardiola as well. Like, he has been so great this season, and I think for last 3-4 years we have always been calling for a left back as well, like how we are calling for a right back right now. But I think that left back position is sorted now for at least few years, and I think Guardiola has been amazing.
Well, it depends whether Guardiola comes into centre back. I mean, that's always been the big question. Yeah, I mean, I'm not expressing an opinion. I'm just saying that Guardiola was fundamentally a centre back when he was signed for the centre back. You know, is it going to be Guardiola and Kusanov, together, or is Guardiola now going to I mean, you can't really call him left back, because he's kind of, he's kind of just that, what do they call it, Renaissance man playing everywhere.
One player I'll compare him to is Ben White for Arsenal. He was a centre back as well, but I think for Arsenal is when, like, how he has taken over the right back position. I think Guardiola is much better than Ben White, but he is kind of a centre back who has actually locked that left back position. And it's not that he's okay; he's great in that position. It's not that he's just filling a spot for the meanwhile. He has made that position his own. He defends well, he attacks well. Like yesterday, he was more on the defensive side rather than going forward and attacking, because on the left we had Doku, who was going through the wings a lot. So Guardiola yesterday didn't had to go forward, so he was defending a lot yesterday, and he was defending great as well. So it's not that he's good going forward and bad in defensive. I think he's good both ways, and we can use him according to the team which is playing. If there's a fast winger on the left, he can he can stay back and defend more. If let's say Mamouche is playing on the left, Mamouche can come into the center and Guardiola can make his left wing runs, and which he's great in doing that as well. So I think he actually suits us a lot, and I really like him in that left back position. I would rather
Yeah,
him.
no,
I
I
think
agree.
you make some really good points. I mean, I think we, obviously, during the treble season, Pep had gone on to kind of get rid of all the left backs, right backs, apart from Walker at times. But even Walker at times, I think was absent really. And Pep decided to play centre backs at left back and right back, and Akanji was at right back a lot that season. And I think he should continued that. And I think as long as Pep is probably at City, he'll probably keep Guardiola at left back. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it just works in this system right now. Whether that changes in the summer, with obviously getting someone's coming at right back, because we're obviously going to need cover for Walker that's missing. We're playing Nunes at times and Rico at times. I just think there needs to be someone there nailed in, and we'll see who that is in the summer. I'm going to move on a little bit, as in because there were a few negatives. I think it's important that we are balanced to this. And for me, Mamouche didn't have his best game. Savio frustrated the hell out of me at times. I mean, he, some of the sitters that he just missed were shocking. I mean, it felt like he was almost trying his best to miss.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He couldn't have made a better job of missing if he did. So and Doku, as much as I think Doku was impressive, again his end product was lacking, and I think he's now in his second season. I know he's had a few injury problems, but he's got to start picking up, because you could see Pep on the sidelines was absolutely losing at times with Savio and Doku, and just like, what are you doing? You are. I'm putting you out there because I want you, getting those chances and whipping those balls in. But if there's no end product, it's
just on yesterday, I won't say Doku was a problem or he wasn't great, because if players were finishing well, he could have easily got 3 assists. So I think, excluding yesterday's game, I would say I totally agree with you that Doku needs to improve his end product. But just on yesterday's game, I think Doku played pretty well, and I think he was our best attacker, and he should have got 3 assists.
I
that's what I'm saying. He should have. Sorry, Rich.
Yeah.
No, but that wasn't his fault. He should have got 3 assists, because players should have finished what he gave. He did the assist. They butchered the finish, and so I think when a player puts in the perfect ball and someone misses a sitter with an open goal from 2 yards, you can't criticise the player for not giving an assist. You can criticise the player for missing for 2 yards. And I think yesterday, and I also think all season, Doku has had criticism for poor end product when no City player has run into position on the near or the far post to be in position for the assist. And now you can have Messi past the defence ready to give an assist, but if the strikers or the midfielders aren't there to finish, then the best player in the world can't make an assist. And there was a lot of games where, yes, Doku made some sloppy balls or didn't pick the right pass, but there were a lot of games where there was 8 centre-backs there and no City players, and fans were blaming Doku for not passing to a City player, but it's like, well, there's no one there to pass to.
I think last 2 games actually show Doku's game, because against Liverpool, I was frustrated as well with Doku. Like, in that game, I totally agree. I don't know why he was crossing the ball that much, because during that game there was no one in the middle to get the crosses. So I think for that game, I totally agree. Doku is quite frustrating in those sort of games. But just on yesterday's game, I won't give any blame to Doku, because he could have been the man of the match. He could have got 3 assists, and I would say,
Josh, didn't you in a way get frustrated with City's tactics against Liverpool? Because at the end of the day, you put one of the best dribblers in world football up against the most overrated right back in world football, and he has him on toast. But I remember watching Arsenal last year against Liverpool, where Arteta set up the whole game plan about Trent being the weakness, exposing him, and ruthlessly, Saka and particularly Martinelli and I can't remember if it was Havertz they had that day, but they ruthlessly exploited, and they won the game because of Trent. Now, last weekend we had Trent on toast. Didn't he get beaten 7 times in the first 15 minutes or something? Yeah. Like a world record in football history for the most times a fullback's been beaten by a winger. But what's the point of doing that and then not having the players in position to get the ball? Because yes, Doku didn't pass the City players, but they weren't there. And I don't see the point of, we're going to play Doku against Trent, we're going to have Trent on toast, and then he's going to get past him, and that's where the plan ends.
Yeah, no, you're right, Rich.
Yeah, that was weird. That was partly tactics.
Yeah, and I agree. You and Darwish made some great points. I think my little worry, and I'm not calling out Doku as in I think he's been criminally bad most of the season. I think he's actually had some really good games. And I think you're right, Darwish. I think he, yesterday's game, he was putting balls in, and some players weren't there. I suppose what I'm trying to say is I'm putting devil's advocate a little bit. That my little worry is that the consistency sometimes is something that he struggles with. Like, I worry about him becoming a player like St. Maximin, who has all that pace, all that skill, but he's not consistent enough. Do you know what I mean? He's still got time, and I still think he's still a hell of a player. I just want to see more consistency out of him. That's the way I look at it.
No, that is a valid point. He has not been that consistent, but I think for the last month or so, he has shown progression in terms of his end product. Because I think last season he wasn't great. Earlier this season he wasn't great, but in last few games which he has played, he has done much better than previously. So I think next season would be very crucial for Doku. How well he plays, and just on the right, Savio actually needs to work on his not end product but his shooting, because he is not great in shooting. Like, he has earlier, when he had scored 0 goals, he was keep on trying on shooting from difficult angles from different sides, and he wasn't scoring. Then there was a 3-4 games phase when he was shooting pretty well, but again that has lost. And again yesterday, that was a sitter, and he should have definitely finished that goal. And yesterday I was frustrated, not just with Savio but our attack in general. We could have easily lost that game in the second half, and in the first half we had so many great chances. And I think I was so nervous in the second half, because it happens a lot with City. Like, we miss clear cut chances, and every time the opposition would score 1 goal, they would equalize or score a winner. So I think
just gonna stop you just because Pat's got to leave soon. Sorry, Dan. I just want him to be able to have his closing thoughts before he has to go and start his own show. So,
my closing thoughts on the Savio and Doku is, I think both of the wingers will improve. I think it's I think I was saying it to somebody that I saw a clip where somebody keeps showing Savio with his left foot. That miss, he keeps doing it. Even when it was Girona, he struggled with the left foot. He keeps leaning back and grouping them and just hitting the post. But I think those two, give them, like, this season, I think just give them this season. As soon as they gel, I think they will start cooking the same way Sane and Raheem cooked. I see so much hope, especially in Doku. I told people that even his first season was not bad. He was trying to do something, but I think the City team was on a different tune to him. Even with the Liverpool game, I say Haaland is in that game, Doku will start crossing it over or trying to do something, but there was nothing. Nobody's in there. You know what Doku reminds me of? He could have been great that time when City were scoring a lot of cutbacks. Remember the cutback season where there'd be like 5 City players, 2017 and 18. They'd always do tap-ins, and it was always cut back. You dribble, you cut back. But this new City team somehow, I don't know, is so allergic to being in the box. You find Savio and Doku have dribbled. They look up, it's empty. You're like, where is Foden? And I was like, Foden, get in there. Like this game, I liked it because I think both of them were excited because Mamouche and Haaland were in the box. But you know what? I'm happy. I'm like both of you guys, Rich. I'm excited with fast wingers. I'm sorry, Martin, if you're listening.
Oh, he's listening,
Martin's a
Pat.
convert.
He's listening.
He's a
I know.
convert. He's a convert.
I was so. I know we won the treble, but my God, I used to have a headache. I used to say Bernardo Silva and Grealish. Why passing it back? Why? There would be somebody in the box. They would hold the ball and pass it back, and you're like, what? Because even looking at the Inter game, imagine if Joko and Savinho were in that Inter game. Because at Inter game, those moments where Inter were sending their wingers 1v1, isn't it? The four backs, because they knew they would do nothing. It's just, and here's Alan with Doko has no end product. We're still there. Headless chicken. My God, Alan. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. I just have to go do a video on Achiveri by public demand. So I'm starting in a few minutes. But a big up to you guys. I'll have you on my phone. I'll be watching you on my phone as I'm doing this. I'll be in the comments.
Thanks, Pat. It's great having you on, mate. And
thank you guys.
Bye, Pat.
Yeah.
See you later, mate. Thanks for being on. Yeah, true City fan. Please check out his channel. Pat is always great. He's always great to have him on and to have his opinion. So yeah, check him out. I know he's going to be starting now, but yeah, maybe check him out after we've finished. No, but,
I heard that one.
He knows I'm just joking around. Yeah, so I think we can still continue. I mean, I think as well, like the other negative that I heard was on Nico. I think some people thought he had a bit of a poor game. I will say in his defence again, he's still relatively new. He's got a lot of time on his side, and I think it's a hard position to learn. You know, the Rodri position, because as much as I think Kovacic had a better game last night, he was still having to cover for some of Kovacic's mistakes. And covering that back four. And I still think, even if it wasn't his best game, you can still see the talent that he's got. So that's my opinion anyway. I don't know what you thought, Darmish.
Yeah, no, Nico has been good. It wasn't the best game from him yesterday, but like I wouldn't expect every player to be perfect in every game. So I think it is fine if sometimes he has that kind of games. But yeah, he has been very positive for us, and let's see how he does when Rodri is back next season. I think that would be the actual test, how those two play together, or if one plays and the other stays on the bench. Let's see how it goes. But for now, I think he is filling that void which we had in terms of a CDM. So I think it's good enough for this season. This season, our target essentially right now is to get top 4, hopefully win the FA Cup. I think that is our target, and he is perfect for that. Let's see how good he is next season. I think that would be the actual test.
And I think with I think we're obviously going to ease Rodri back in quite a lot. So I think there'll be quite a time when probably Nico and Rodri are playing together, and Nico's going to really help Rodri get his legs back, because I suspect it'll take a few months into next season before really he has the legs back. And I think I think then it's going to be fascinating to see how, because both Rodri and Nico, they're not out and out sixes and they're not out and out eights. They're players who can shift between the two. So it'll be interesting to see whether Pep watches them for time and shifts one of them a bit further forward and they play quite static, or whether Pep finds a way in his, mad potions bag of making them kind of interchange, and one of them goes, the other one positions, and they really play as a partnership, which would be that would be really interesting, because that would give you formidable defensive protection in front of if you had those two able to pivot back as sixes, and then if you can figure out how to make that flexible into attack so it just doesn't make you too slow. But you also have to say, when you look at Marmoush, Doko, Savio and Haaland, are City going to try and play the game slightly differently. We've played the game for years and years and years, right up the top end of the pitch. But then suddenly when you've got the pace that we'll have and the movement, are we going to be moving moving back towards our own goal in how we want to set up a bit more to try and create a bit more space behind the opposition backline? Are we going to have possession a bit nearer to our own goal than we have had for years? And does that mean actually the passing of Rodri and Nico in midfield is going to be slightly longer, slightly, are we going to see a bit of a different style? Because, when you look at it, if Nico and Rodri play in the team, they are a bit deeper than the Gundos and De Bruyne's, etc. Bernardo's, they're going to be playing instead of. And suddenly we've got really quick wingers who can benefit from space. And Marmoush, whose game is based around movement and runs and all that. So are we actually going to see City really evolve into quite a different football team? And it does, there was a headline in one of the papers the other day virtually saying that Pep's football's now been found out because the physicality and the pace and everything of all the teams is now too much for the high possession game we've played. So is Pep going to actually change it all? And
Pep has made comments, hasn't he, recently saying that exactly what you said, that the game has changed, and we know Pep has been brilliant at adapting over the last 8 seasons he's been at City. We know that he's revolutionised the way the Premier League teams and even in the lower divisions play.
I did it with Barca and with the false 9. He did it.
Yeah,
and he did it at Bayern as well with Barnes.
Yeah. So he's always been at the forefront of having the foresight of looking at the way football adapts and the way he can adapt his team to play. So it wouldn't. I think the reason he probably hasn't adapted this season is for all the reasons we know, that a lot of these players are coming to the end and a lot of injuries. He hasn't had the players to probably revolutionise the team. But we all know that come the summer, when they bring in the players they want, I would imagine we'll be seeing a few players that have got pace in that, especially in the midfield as well, but also maybe have a bit of physicality to them, because he did that with. I mean, you can remember a good few seasons ago where our backline was some of the shortest players. We had the shortest squad in Europe at one stage, or at least in the Premier League. Like, we didn't have big stature of players. Pep changed that and brought in Akanji and Rodri and Diaz and a few others that that had the Haaland. So he saw that coming and he made those changes and he adapted. So we know Pep can do it. He just needs the players to revolutionise the next chapter of City. I just want to go back to Craig, because Craig part of the time had talked about Roger's contract. So I think if Martin could put that back up, we'll get into that quickly. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting news, obviously, that it's looking like Rodri is about to extend for another 5 years, I think Craig had said. And the next is Foden as well. Obviously, I think it's brilliant news to hear, because we do want to keep Rodri. I'm sure Darmish and Rich, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. But also, is there any negatives as well? Because I want to think, does it depend on how he comes back? Do we think he's going to come back, being that player? We saw it with the likes of Van Dijk, do you know what I mean, after his injury that he had a few seasons ago. Some players don't always come back. So I'd just like to what your thoughts are on Rodri extending and how that it's good, but also any worries and concerns.
No.
Yeah, I worry far more about a player. If a player like Doku, has a really serious knee injury, I worry about that. Players who are just on bursts, incredibly fast acceleration, really, really high impact. I worry about players like that, which is why when Mendy had his, the footballer he was, it was going to be, a disaster. I think Rodri is whilst he's very physical, he's not physical in that way. And I think he's a very thoughtful, intelligent guy who is going to bring himself back properly, follow the advice, train really hard, do all the things he's meant to do. And I think, especially now we've got Nico, that's going to take pressure off him being rushed. And so I think he'll come back and he'll be just as good. And I think it's fantastic that, you know, he'll sign 5 years and that, you know, there's no threat of him going back to Spain. Because I did worry that, you know, he might decide he wanted to go to Spain and, you know, play there. But I actually think the behaviour of Real Madrid, which was appalling, has made that very, very unlikely to happen, because Barcelona can't afford, you know, I mean, they'd probably struggle to afford Nunes if we wanted to get rid of him. So
can I just add on to that, Rich? Can I just, sorry to cut you off, but big up everybody. I'm glad to be here. Glad to see everybody.
Before you do, mate, I've just got to thank Mark. I will bring you in a second, but Mark, again, thank you so much for your gifted 10 memberships there. Always fantastic, mate. We really appreciate your support, and again, whoever gets them, thank you.
More than you believe. More than you believe, I'm happy.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Is it Ed? Sorry, because I can't see your name on screen.
Yeah. It's me. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's not showing my name.
Yeah. But
But
Ed, go on. Sorry, mate. Go on. What are you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say about the Rodri thing too, that he hasn't had like a lot of like muscle injuries there, or like injuries. So there's really not that, you know, history that shows that he has a problem with that. So I think that's another good sign to say, okay, this was a one-time injury, even though it was a significant injury. It's still a once. We've only had to deal with this one time with him, and that he should be able to bounce back. I mean, we have some of the best doctors in the world looking at him, observing him, making sure, you know, he's coming along nicely. And, you know, I agree with Rich that that's why we brought in somebody like Nico, is to lighten that burden when he is coming back. And I think that's why, and I know some people in here don't like the Club World Cup. That's a situation where we can ease Rodri back in too and get him some minutes underneath his legs before the season even starts, right? So he is, you know, in some form of conditioning shape once the Premier League does start up.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. Yeah, it's all positive signs, isn't it? Really, that, you know, that coming from City, that they obviously want to extend, and that you're right about his injury. You know, I think, yeah, we've seen the training videos of him trying to get back into shape, and there doesn't seem to be a setback. It was reported, wasn't it, you know, a few weeks back, that he was actually doing so well that he may come back earlier. You know, so I don't want him rushed back. You know,
especially
especially I
after,
want to come back at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen what's happened with Bob. You know, Bob was expected to come back at the beginning of the year. He's had a bit of a setback. Pepper said that he is due back soon, so we might see him in the Plymouth game, which we will get onto shortly. But just before we do, there's obviously been another big news announcement today. That Echeverri has obviously now officially joined the club, as in, you know, he's actually here now to train and hopefully play. And obviously they've done all the promotional stuff today with him as well. And he said, you know, he's so happy to be here. He's made some great comments that, you know, he loves City, that, you know, he's been watching City for quite a long time. He's also, you know, got big, you know, he loves Doku, he loves Haaland, he loves watching them play, and he's excited about joining the team. We know one of the reasons why he didn't start, you know, in January. You know, he's been playing at the under-21 Cup, you know, and he's been impressing there. You know, he's a lot of people are now looking at him properly and going, wow, City have really got a player on their hands. He looks an amazing young talent. I haven't seen that much of him apart from when he was at River Plate. I saw bits and pieces there. I haven't seen anything during the cup that he's been playing in. But I know that he has been doing really well. I mean, obviously, he's a young player. He's got a lot of talent, obviously. But obviously, he's coming into City at not the best time. He's coming in quite late. How much, realistically, do we see him having an impact on this season? And then what do you guys see which is probably
Why'd
getting.
you say not the best time? I mean, I just think
Rich,
that
I'm just putting
for
it
a young
out there.
player, yeah, it's
I'm just
probably
putting
the
it out
best
there
time
because
ever.
yeah, I know, and I'm going to let you comment on that, mate. But I'm just saying, at the moment, it hasn't been the best of times, recently. So I just want to kind of say that a little bit. But we know, as you're going to make a comment on, that for him to come in now and make maybe some impact would be great. I want to know what you guys think. So go on, Rich.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, all the talk about Echeverri, from so many City fans is that he's, years off. He's, young. It's almost like we signed a kid. This guy's played over 50 games for River Plate. So, that is a big team in a big league in front of a huge crowd, in big games, big intense games. And he's played over 50 times now. So he's actually, I think that would put him ahead of, someone like Bob or probably even Kuzanov and some of the others in terms of big game experience. So that, he's not quite as raw and young and, miles away from top football as some people say. I think he's probably a lot closer than we think. And, he doesn't quite come at the level that, we signed, Gabriel Jesus at, but he comes with a lot more experience than I think people talk about. And I think, for a young player coming to, he's probably the best time he could ever sign for us. But if we were on the top of our game, going for the Champions League and everything was there, Pep would just be focused on the next 3 days, the next game, keeping, Bernardo and Gundo and everyone fit and getting through the season, winning everything. And I think at the moment, Pep's, he's free of, for 4 seasons on the trot, Pep has been bang, 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 win the next game, trophies, da-da-da. He's tweaking things to try and win those games. But I think Pep's got a blank canvas at the minute, and he's kind of like, wow, I've got to get us in the top 4 or 5. I mean, it'll almost certainly be top 5. And that now, and probably I think Pep will really want to win the FA Cup. So we'll come to the Plymouth game in a minute. But I think that FA Cup could be a sign off to a generation, and winning that FA Cup, I think, would mean a lot to the fans, to the players, to Pep. But Echeverri's coming in, and he's a new ingredient into this new recipe, into this new team. He's going to be learning side by side with other players like, Marmoush and Kuzanov and Rice and Nico and, and truthfully Bob and still Savio. He's going to be learning alongside them, new team, new enthusiasm. So I think, we might get to see him. I think the biggest problem with seeing him is actually going to be that there aren't going to be that many games now. There might be, I don't know what, 15 games left this season if we progress well in the FA Cup. So there isn't going to be the need to be playing 3 games every week. And I did watch a fair bit of the under 20s, was it under 23s, under 20s World Cup and Copa America, sorry, and he looked good. He assists, goals, pressing, work rate. He looked like a little dynamo, and I hope we get to see him this season. You're on mute, Ozzy. You're in the dark, on mute. You look like something out of Silence of the Lambs, like, you're about to announce, you're going to have a glass of Chianti or something.
Possibly, Rich, possibly. I mean, if he can make half the impact that some of the South American talent that have come through in recent years, we only have to look at Julian Alvarez, who came from River Plate as well. I know he was a bit older, but again, a lot of people were saying, he's if he was that good, someone would have bought him earlier in his career, because that's normally what happens. But actually, he came in and did a hell of a job for us while he was here. So I think you're right. I think the talent is there. I think you're right about Pep and moulding him into being a fantastic player. We've seen him do it before with so many young players that I have no doubt that he's going to be a superstar at some stage for us. And hopefully, like you said, we'll see him play. I would love it if he played against Plymouth. Anyway, Dash, what are your thoughts on Echeverry coming in now?
Yeah, I don't really remember if I have been this excited for a player whom I haven't watched play at all. I don't know why. Like, I am excited that
You
he's
don't
in.
remember Georgie Samaras?
No,
No.
no. So yeah, and especially how big LB is on Echeverry, calling him HMSC. So I think I am a bit excited to see how he does, and I think he will get a few chances from here till end of the season. I think he will start, let's say, 3 or 4 games in the remaining matches, because as Rich was saying, I think this is the right time for him to come, because we don't have great expectations right now with our season. Like, we can play him in 3 4 games in the Premier League as well and still get top 4 pretty easily, I would say. So I think he will get his chances. And also, it is important for City as well to know if we would have to get another midfielder in the summer, or we consider him as one of those midfielders, because we know sometimes Pep doesn't trust young players, and I actually believe that even if the players are young, if they are talented, they can perform. Like we have seen, like with the current Barcelona team, there are so many youngsters playing amazingly well. We have seen 2 players in Arsenal this season who are pretty young and doing great. So I think age and being young doesn't need to affect them. If they're talented, they can perform well. And for him, he's coming at the right time, because he will get some opportunities this season to prove that he is capable of playing in to play in the City team. So I think it's great. I would love to see him a few times this season, and I think he would do well. So yeah, pretty happy.
Yeah. Ed, what are your thoughts, mate, on Echeverry coming in?
No, I'm definitely excited for him to come in. I think, I'm always, especially with young players, I'm always hesitant about all this hype. I just want them to come in, let Pep get a look at them, let them develop without, a lot of pressure to perform. Yeah. I think I think there's a lot of talent there. There's no mistaking that. I just, we all know how Pep is about the midfield, right? And I think actually it probably would have been better for him to come into January more than now, just because of the FA Cup. And I think we would have seen him more, and maybe Pep would have more confidence, because I think if you guys look at that table, top 4 is very competitive right now. And I think you won't see him in a like a I know Martin's gonna laugh at this, into a game until maybe we secure that, right? Because he still has Foden in front of him, he still has Marmoush in front of him, and we're still gonna see KDB too, right? So I think, with Hussinov, that was a little bit differently, because we're like depleted back there, right? So that gave him that opportunity to have that chance, and he's taking it. And I wouldn't drop him, So
Yeah, no, you make valid points, mate. I mean, I think I've always said, and I think we've said it on the show a few times, but I think the midfield is where Pep feels that he's always felt that he can only rely on certain players, and that's why throughout the season we've seen him stick with a lot of the older players, feeling that he can only rely on them. He can't rely on some of the youngsters coming in and giving them a shot. So I think you make a valid point. I think he'll need to assess him. He'll need to feel that is he able to even come in an FA Cup, because we know how tough the FA Cup can be. Even up against Plymouth, they've already done one giant killing this season in Liverpool, and us not playing at our best. I'm not writing them off completely. I'd be very surprised if we were to lose, obviously, at the weekend. But I just think bringing in a player that hasn't played in this league yet, who is very young, and as you said, Ed, he's Pep is not one for blooding in young players unless he absolutely has to. And even then, he'll probably stick with the old guard. So we shall see. It's great to have him here, though. Rich, I feel like you want to say something.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I think we'll play a really strong side against Plymouth. I think I think
Oh, really?
In some I think in some ways winning the FA Cup is going to be
the only
winning
trophy
the
we
FA
can win.
Cup and top five are the really big things, and we're not going to be playing Champions League midweek. I think constantly the rest of the season. So I think our FA Cup side is going to be stronger than we've seen in a few years, and we'll take it. And I'm glad that's good because I do love the FA Cup. I think that'll be great, and I think we'll see a lot of big names on the pitch this weekend.
If you don't mind me asking, Rich, what's your starting 11?
Well, I think there'll be some players. Like I think he'll rest a few players who played possibly too much. So I think we might see Ake left back instead of Guardiola. We'll see Ortega come in. I wouldn't be surprised if Kuzanov plays. Rico Lewis plays, quite possibly Diaz. So there'll be. I think we'll play Nico. Whether Foden will probably play, and maybe we'll see someone. I think we'll probably see a De Bruyne or a Gundo with Foden, and then I think he'll probably rest one of the wingers. He'll probably rest, and he might rest Haaland, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Marmoush and Marmoush, Grealish, and Savio or something. I wouldn't be surprised if it's as strong as that. Nico, De Bruyne, and Foden. Maybe Ortega, Ake, Diaz, Kuzanov, and Nunes or something, or Rico Lewis. Sorry. So
yeah, I think you're right, Costa Rich. I think we have to admit
3 or 4 rests. Haaland will get a rest. I think Guardiola maybe, but I think it'll be strong.
Yeah, no, I mean we know that Pep, when it comes to all the competitions, maybe not the League Cup in recent history, the last couple of years, but definitely with the FA Cup, he's always gone pretty strong, even against the lower side teams. He respects his competition. I think he always has felt he hasn't won this competition enough. Do you know what I mean? So I think with us having this off season, we're not winning the Premier League. We're at the Champions League. This is the last kind of cup really, and in a cup competition, anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? Against any opposition. So I agree with Rich. I think he'll rest a few players, and we'll see a few players come in and maybe they can add something and show what they're worth. Because there's a few players, you mentioned Grealish. He came on in the last 90, and it felt like that was a bit of time wasting from Pep rather than trying to give Grealish a bit of a run out. It just felt that he's still got some proving to do. Regardless of the reports that are coming out about Grealish and a few other players, we've still got games to play, and if your time isn't, if your future isn't here at City, it's somewhere, and you've got to show that club that you're going to move to, that you've got something about you, and you still care, and you still want to go out on that pitch and do something and show what you're worth still. So these players have still got to step up for me, regardless if they stay or not. Do you know what I mean? They've still got points to prove. Ed, are you feeling there's going to be a big change, or what are your feelings, mate, before I bring in Garnish?
I kind of like I actually agree a lot with Rich. I just wanted his 11 because when people hear strong, they expect the heavy hitters out there. So I wanted Rich to clarify that. But for me, I even have maybe a take. I can see him maybe doing Nunes right back, Rico left back, and then you might see like kind of what he did at the other FA Cup. You might see a Diaz, Husanov, and then maybe second half Ake, Hayes. I think you might see something like that to get Hayes in there for him to get some minutes too. That's the only reason why I say that Nunes, Rico, fullback combination, because you are taking that risk, and we have to think about this risk with Diaz and Ake. I think we need them to be fit for the rest of the season. I think that is a must for us with what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that I think above all else, as much as I'd like to kind of win the FA Cup, you still have to think really that the top 4 has got to be a minimum for the end of the season. So I can understand where you're coming from, Ed. Dharmesh, what are your thoughts, mate, on the game?
I think that we would go strong as well. And by strong, if I just compare my back 4 to what Ed mentioned, I think both Rico and Nunes won't start. I think only one of those two would start, and that would be right back. And I think on left back, Pep might play Ake instead of Guardiola. And centre back pairing, I think it will be Diaz and Kusanov to start. And once we are winning the game in the second half, he would change it to Vito Hayes and maybe bring in Rico and then move him to left back.
Okay.
But I don't think starting lineup would be that, because this is the last trophy that we can win this season. So I think Pep will take this even more seriously this season. So I think we will be strong. And in terms of attack, I think Haaland would be rested because he actually needs some rest. And I think one of those wingers, and I suppose Doku would rest as well because he gets a few injuries as well. So I think Doku will be rested, and we might see either Foden on the wing, or we might see a McAtee start as well this game, because McAtee has been coming in the second half in last few games. So maybe McAtee gets a start this match. So I think Doku and Haaland would be rested in the front.
Yeah, I think Doku needs protecting. Doku, because of the intensity of his play and his muscle mass, I think he's a player who I do think will always struggle to play, 3 games in a week. And I think we've all seen that we now know whatever happens, Stones can't play 3 games in a week. Because we finally got him, he's looking like a Rolls Royce, and then we go and play him 3 games in a week and, learn the lesson. So I think we're going to see, I think in a way Haaland is better if you don't play him 3 times in a week as well because of his physicality. But I think, Doku will definitely be rested. I'm sure will definitely be rested. Haaland will definitely be rested. His knee obviously was, for him to miss Madrid and Liverpool where he would have been doing anything to play shows that it wasn't great. So, yeah, rest those two, because, ultimately it's going to be a showdown for who the best striker in European football is a week on Saturday. So, Haaland needs to be absolutely motoring for Forest for the big showdown of the big dog number 9s.
Like when Vicario, when Vicario like wiped out Haaland to get to the ball, I was like, please let your knee be okay. Please let your knee be okay, man. Because I was like, gosh.
Speaking of Haaland, I think the funniest thing is, and it says something about City fans, is that one of the worst decisions the Premier League this season has happened was made in that game against Spurs.
Yeah.
When you think of the whinging and whining and conspiracy theories and everything else we've seen from 2 particular sets of fans in the top 2 places in the league, when a decision is marginally against them, I think it just says the world about City as a club and City fans and football, that we are, that hasn't been the main topic of the show, and it hasn't been a show just about a conspiracy, because one awful bottling decision that was by a referee who bottled it and a VAR who bottled it, and it was pathetic.
Yeah,
I had to mention that, but that's probably enough.
I think
because we're not, we're not Arsenal or Liverpool, so we don't need to whine for 3 hours about the conspiracy against us.
No, it was a shocking decision, Rich. There's no denying that. what, it was nearly 5 minutes by the time they'd ultimately made a decision. And even the commentators on the UK were absolutely just like,
Yeah.
hang on a minute, they just told us it was a goal, and now they're telling us it's not a goal. What the hell is it? It was just a mess. For me, I'm sure for most City fans, and I think even most people who are not supporters of the club would turn around and go, it's a goal. I think even some Spurs fans would go, yeah, okay, I think that was a fair
I don't
goal.
think I've not heard anyone who's watched it saying it wasn't. And the mad thing is, and this is, if you actually watch it back, the referee didn't blow for a goal or blow for a foul. He just kind of stood there looking at it. That after about 10 seconds, the camera pans off him. So it's almost like, I don't know. Because let's be honest, from where the referee was, it could have been a handball by Haaland. It could have been a handball by the Spurs player. It could have been a foul by the Spurs player. A foul, but foul by Haaland. It could have been anything. So he didn't have a clue. So he stood there like a muppet, hoping that VAR intervenes. Remembers once the camera's panned off him that VAR has to have a decision to review, and who knows whether he blew a goal or blew a foul. I mean, he must have blown a foul, I guess.
I think I have heard
VAR,
of this.
VAR doesn't even know whether it's like clear and obvious to deny the goal or clear and obvious to give the goal. I mean, it was just absolute embarrassing. And thank goodness that, imagine that Sarr had scored that goal a minute later, and then City came 6th by 1 point. I mean, it's
then there would have been conspiracy talk, Rich. I can tell you that now. Go on, Dash. What were you going to say, mate?
I was just about to say that in the TV coverage, they actually panned towards Haaland when he was running to celebrate, but I actually listened a whistle in the background. So I think the referee actually gave a foul, gave a handball. So I think he actually did that because I heard a whistle in the TV coverage, because they panned the camera to that direction. So we didn't see the referee actually blowing the whistle, but I think I heard it. But in terms of the VAR not giving that a goal, I think that is a big mistake as well. Like, handball is technically like offside. Either it is offside or it is not an offside. Same way, either it is a handball, it is not a handball. If he doesn't, if he can't make a decision that it hits his hand, then he has to give it a goal. You can't say that I can't give a judgment that it hits the hand or not. If you can't find that it's hitting the hand, you have to give it a goal, because scoring a goal is a unique thing in football. So to cancel a goal, you have to be certain that it wasn't a goal. And if Tottenham would have equalized, I think that would have been a big point of discussion, not just with City, but it should be a big point of discussion in the media as well. Because whenever sometime happens with Arsenal, with Liverpool, there's a big issue in that. And no one talks about City. And I think this time people are ignoring it because City won. But
and I think that's the point, Danish. I think
the consequences of decisions shape,
exactly.
the thing, and also, the
fans,
the
fans as well.
It could have been easily been a handball on Danson, because he handled it way more than Haaland even going close to it. So
twice. It touched twice. It touched twice Tottenham's players' hands. So it could have been penalty twice for them. So I don't know how VAR ended up on the decision that there's no decision to change. I think he could have easily said that if it touched a hand, it was a Tottenham player's hand, and it didn't touch Haaland's hand. So I think it could have been easily given like a goal. And even though if he's not sure, ask the referee to watch it again, because as Rich mentioned, referee couldn't have seen that handball. So how can he say that it is a handball when he definitely couldn't see it? So if VAR isn't sure, I think even then referee should see it and then again make a decision that if he still feels it was a correct foul given by him or not. So I think even that was a disgrace that he didn't even go to the monitor to check it again, because
it was just ridiculous, and
exactly.
it was stupid. But whilst you say the referee blew a whistle, I'm sure he did. If you watch the footage, they didn't pan on to Haaland for quite a few seconds, so he didn't blow it at the time of the incident. He kind of stared at it for about 10 seconds, and he's thinking, what do I do? So it was.
I think it would be TV difference as well. Yeah.
I think what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, but I think what he did fundamentally is he's like, I don't know what's happened, and to be fair, he couldn't possibly have known. So, but if you do that, why would you say I don't know what's happened, but I'm going to blow no goal? I don't know what's happened.
Exactly.
If you're throwing it to VAR, then he got it wrong. It should be if you're throwing it to VAR, like offside, the benefit of the doubt goes with the striker, and then if it's wrong, you overturn the decision. And it's almost like, it's almost like waving offside too early and getting an offside decision wrong, which there's just no need to do it anymore. I think we did have it. I think there was one, was it Newcastle, where the linesman did it, gave Gordon offside when he wasn't, and you're like, why would you do that? In today's rules, that could have played out, been a goal. It's going to be disallowed if Gordon's offside, and it went up early. And I think the referee did that. It was just bad refereeing. And
I think you're right, Rich. I think what it comes down to, really and truly, like, people turn around and go. I mean, I think with Steve Blacker said it's step 2 VAR, like that. Very good, mate. It's not the technology that's at fault here. It's the aficionation. It's people behind the scenes basically making these decisions. Do you know what I mean? And it's referees that are in Stockley Park and they're looking at this footage and they're just there's no consistency. Do you know what I mean? From one game to another, one decision is made, and the next game they go against the previous. What happened very similar. It's just we want consistency with these decisions. Just have it so it's set out that, I mean, like in the Champions League, where they turn around and say if it hits the opponent's hand, it's immediate, it's a penalty. There's no arguing, there's no nothing. I would rather that in some respects than just, maybe, or no, just make a decision. As much as you can turn around and go, I don't like that decision, at least a decision.
Yeah.
You can it goes one way or another. There's a correct answer, there's not a correct answer. Do you know what I mean? I don't want this just, in my opinion, or, just make a decision. And I appreciate, I mean, some people think decisions go on too long. I want them to, I'm not too fussed about it if it goes on for a few minutes and trying to make the right decision, but as long as they come out with at least a correct outcome that makes sense.
And also, just on yesterday's decision, the call that he can't determine if he touches his hand or not, I would rather prefer him saying it hit his hand and that's why we are denying the goal. I would accept that they are saying it hit his hand even though I know it wasn't, because in that way they are actually making a specific decision. But saying that they cannot determine if it touched his hand or not and then denying the goal, I think that is much worse of a decision. So that's the thing, that they have so many angles, they have so many cameras, and still you are not determining if it touched his hand or not. Like, I don't accept that. I would rather accept a wrong decision rather than saying that we can't make a decision. So that was a big
Ed, you've been on mute for a little bit, so I don't know if you're still there, mate. I want to move on.
I know I'm still here. I was just letting you guys talk about the referees, No,
I want to move on quickly from this, mate. So just go on, make your point. But we don't want to drag in too much into this. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys said. I actually want to take this time, because I know you guys were at the end, to go back on what Matt said earlier about Vardio. I think we might be looking at a left back, maybe not to replace him, but it just allows us that extra versatility to maybe help out that center back position, to keep a Ake fit, to keep a Diaz fit, to keep a Stones fit. It just allows us that extra option in there. So I wouldn't look at it as like replacing him. I would look at it like, how can it help the team out elsewhere if we do get a left back?
Yeah, mate, you make a very valid point there.
Just on that thing, I heard from somewhere that Cambiaso can actually play left back as well. Is that true or not?
I honestly, mate, I've only seen him play right back and
he can play both sides. He plays both sides for Juventus. Yeah.
So if we get Cambiaso, he can be that player.
I know he's very versatile. Obviously, that's why I think another reason Pep wants him is because he likes versatile players who can play in so many different positions. We know this from a lot of the other players in our squad right now. Just going back to the Plymouth game, is there any thought? I think Echeverria is a step too far for me coming in. So what about Bob? Because obviously we know he's a setback. I mentioned it earlier, but even if he comes in for the last 20 minutes of the game or something, can we see that? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like go ahead, Ed.
No, I would love to see him. I think everybody in the fan base would love to see him. I think we all been waiting for him to come back. I think a lot of people were disappointed when we heard about the ankle injury he had in training. So it's all going to depend on what the doctors and Pep feel like. Last time Pep mentioned him, he seemed like he was confident that he was close to returning too. So it's just one of those where we'll wait to see. But I would love to see him for the last 20 minutes if he can go. Especially it being at home too. The roar he'll probably get when he does come back on would be nice to see.
Yeah, Rich.
Yeah, no, I think who we see off the bench depends on the game. If we put the game to bed, and and I think City this season, by putting it to bed, actually means we're 4 goals up because we can't throw away a 4-goal lead. But I think we've done just about everything else below a 4-goal lead this season. So for me, I think if we're 4 up, we'll probably see quite a few players coming on. If we're 1 or 2 up, I don't think we'll necessarily see substitutes made other than to ensure we win the game. So let's wait and see. I think we've seen from Plymouth, who I have seen a couple of times this season, looked absolutely woeful, but then against Liverpool, they looked good. And that was, for all the talk about it not being Liverpool starting 11, there was pretty much 9 internationals, and only 2 players you could argue were kids started that day. There was 9 internationals started, so that was a very good side. And I know it's at home, and that's different, but it depends which Plymouth turn up. If the Plymouth turned up that's been playing in the Championship for most of the season, we should be able to put them away. And if we do that, we'll bring on subs, and I think we'll see a whole host of players come on. If Plymouth turn up, who turned up against Liverpool, and we don't show up, and it's a narrow win like the Leyton Orient game was, very close in the balance till the end, we'll keep a strong team out there, and we won't be bringing players back, from injury. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rich. I think it depends what Plymouth turn up. Like you said, in the league form, they're not particularly doing very well. I think they're languishing very far towards the bottom. But if the side that showed up against Liverpool, and as you said, Liverpool may have not put their first 11 out, but there was still some quality on that pitch, and they should have been winning that game really and truly. So, hats off to Plymouth for getting this far. And I don't mean that disrespectively. Any team that comes into the FA Cup can be a giant killer. We've seen it so many times in this competition, and sometimes it's a joy to see. The underdog. I think we always like to see it, don't we? Especially in the UK, and I don't know how other people view it sometimes from outside the UK, but it's that underdog story we do quite like. And obviously, being City, we're not going to be rooting for Plymouth at the weekend, but we get it. We're going to be wrapping up soon. I just want to, because someone was mentioning about transfers, and there's been a couple of transfer links today. Someone said Hernandez, but I'm not sure which Hernandez. Theo Hernandez at AC Milan, I know has been linked the last few days.
Apparently he won't renew his contract, so they want to sell in the summer because he's only got a year left. So that's why he's been linked. Whether that's an actual link or whether it's just his agent making sure everyone in Europe knows, he's going to be leaving in the summer, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel that is an agent link. In all honesty, as much I think he's a quality player, and I think he would be great at City in some respects. I think he's a really good player. I just feel it's one of those links that I just feel is really good for the agent, and I'd be surprised City ultimately went for him, if I'm honest. Another player I know they've been linked with, I think it was today, but I have had rumours in the past. Is it Jamie Gittins or is it Borussia Dortmund? He's the English
Yeah, yeah.
left sided winger. I know he's been doing really well. He's been over in Dortmund for a while, I think. If I'm right, he's been there for a good few seasons. And I think
From the
he's now
academy, right?
Yeah, he's been doing really well for them this season. I haven't seen him play. I don't know if anybody in the chat or anyone on the panel that has recently seen him play or what they think. But again, I mean, looking at his English, we know there's going to be issues with the English quota, especially like with certain players, possibly Walker, Stones, possibly Jack Grealish as well. That English quota's got to be filled. You know, we can't forget that we need to bring in players. So, and I do think, as me and Rich have said, we do like our pacey wingers. Could we see that as a sign of someone coming in, and how likely is this one, do we think, or is it again more agent talk and just general paper talk?
I've absolutely no idea, to be honest. I think we'll sign a winger. You know, I do think, you know, there'll be a winger signed and Grealish will go. I think that looks pretty telegraphed, and I think that'll be one in, one out. And I think, you know, it does make sense that we sign a couple of English players because we want to keep that homegrown, you know, league trained quota up. You know, especially as we've decided we need a slightly bigger squad. But I've got absolutely no idea. I mean, I haven't watched a huge amount of him, and you know,
Yeah, I mean, he's a pacey winger. It just depends if you want like an insurance policy on Doku or not. Because I know, you know, if Doku does go down, then you're kind of like, okay, do you want Marmoush isn't really that winger that runs at people, right? So it depends on if you want that or if you, because I mean, there's a lot of versatility in our front line when you think about Bob, when you think about Savio. So they can play. I don't know if Bob's played on the left or not, but I know, you know, Savinho has. So we have versatile players up there. It just depends on what Pep wants. Does he want another control player like Grealish? Does he want another pacey winger to get in behind on defense? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just having a quick look at his stats, and just this season, he's got 7 goals, 3 assists. He's averaging a 7 in the Bundesliga. I mean, Borussia Dortmund aren't having their best season. They're languishing quite far behind where they usually would be, just behind Munich. But yeah, I think you're right, Ed. I think, does he want a player to have that control, you know, like a Grealish, or does he want, again, because for me it looks like he's very much a very pacey, very attacking, proper out-and-out winger. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I'd love to see. You know, I'd love to see more pacey wingers, and I know Rich would. So I think he's a shout. You know, I wouldn't say no to. You know, he's still raw. Seems like some talent, but again, this is his season, breakout season by the looks of it.
Yeah.
No, we don't. Laugh out loud from Martin.
Oh yes, we do. It's Martin because
yes.
I was talking about pantomimes to him earlier.
Okay.
You know,
fair enough. So, gentlemen, is there any other thoughts or anything else you want to touch on before? Apparently, Martin has got an announcement to make, and he's desperate to make it. He can't stay away. Do you know what I mean? He really is, the attention he needs.
I mean, I know we recently got linked to like Livermento too, so we might see like a combination of maybe like a Cambiasso and a Frimpong, or a Cambiasso and a Livermento. You know, because since Cambiasso can play both left and right, so we might.
Yeah, but I'm not a Livermento fan. I think he's a bit.
I like him.
I think if you think Doku lacks an end product, but anyway, yeah, maybe I haven't seen enough of him or seen his best games, but he strikes me as a bit of a, the sort of signing we made in the 90s, to play for the team. But yeah, maybe that's unfair.
Yeah,
or maybe
possibly.
the noughties. Probably the noughties, not the 90s.
Probably the noughties.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
here he is, the gaffer.
Did you see the shit we signed in the 90s, Rich?
Yeah.
Whatever
A lot.
live mental to that.
Well, no, I think I meant more than noughties. I was thinking more a sort of Mark Hughes, Sven signing.
I'm sat here from the bed, as you can see. Anyway, couple of things, because I know they're going to end. I just want to say a massive well done to Ozzy and Rich. Ozzy's been magnificent tonight. Thank you to Damesh, Ed, and Pat being on. I want to say a massive thank you to all the DMs, the messages. It is amazing. I am on the mend. It is amazing. Thank you all. I will be back for the Plymouth game. But what we're going to do is, I know there's been loads of people giving memberships, and we normally get people to come on the show. This month, because everyone's been so nice, so what we wanted to give away a prize. So what we're going to give away is Pep's new autobiography. That is brand new. If I open it up, we'll crack the mind. But literally, it is hardback. It's Pep Guardiola's brand new one. The authorised story is Pep Revolution. So that will go to one of the Mancunian Ways community. As long as it's not like, the other side of the world and going to cost 300 quid to send it. If that's the case, we'll sort something out via Amazon. We'll get it off.
We'll send you a keychain.
We'll get it off Amazon and send it to you that way.
They can come and collect.
I've not read it. We're going to give this away on Sunday night because we're not going to do anything Saturday. We'll be back Sunday night for the Plymouth post match. I am going to the Plymouth game. As long as I get the all clear from the dock. So I'll be at the Plymouth game. So this will be going out there. Martin in bed. Yeah, I am in bed. Yeah, it is what it is. I will be back to normal from the weekend. But yeah, just want to say a massive thank you. I'm going to leave in peace now. But good luck to them. And I'll let them wrap up.
Thank you, Martin. And yeah, I mean, that's a great prize to be won, I think. Have a good read of what Pep truly thinks and what his thoughts are in black and white. And yeah, I think it's a great prize that we're going to give out there. So if you want that prize, please, subscribe and become a member. It's very little money, and most of the time, we've got some great big hitters that give them out, and we're always so grateful for the people that give money out and give it out to get more backing and more subscribers to our channel, because it means so much to me, Rich, Pat, and Martin. And yeah, we all hope Martin a speedy recovery. And like you said, he'll be back on the weekend for post match. Rich, final comments.
I think it's been lovely to have a show that we've actually been starting to focus on the future and a more enjoyable city, and and I do think whilst the last few weeks have shown us that we're not back at that Real Madrid Liverpool level yet, we have beaten probably our bogey team in the Premier League and our two biggest rivals for the top four in the last few weeks. So I think we really are starting to get back to ourselves, a much younger new version of ourselves, and I think there's going to be some exciting times because we're changing the way we play. We have to. Pep has to adapt, and I think it's going to be quite exciting. And one thing we haven't commented on tonight is that I think a couple of interviews I've seen in the last week have shown me a Pep with the most energy and the most enthusiasm and a smile back in the last week or two. So something inside, he's mentally, I think, moved on, and he's you know, he's moved on to this new generation, this new kids. He's getting excited about Kuzanov and Nico and Marmouche and, you know, Gvardiol. And yeah, I think we'll bounce back next season really strongly. And I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And we're going to win the FA Cup.
Yeah.
I think a third final against them from across town. And this year we'll really put them to the sword and just.
I like it, Rich. I like it.
Yeah, just absolutely destroy them.
Darmish, final thoughts, mate?
I hope it is a easy win this weekend. I'm going for the match, so hoping we win at least, but hoping for a nice 3-1, 4-1 win. So yeah, hoping that, and I don't think Man United will be anywhere near the final this year. Hopefully, but yeah, hoping for an easy win.
Yeah, we all could have a good laugh at United. It's always a pleasure to see them in the headlines. It's all bad news for them at the moment. So
yeah,
Ed, what are your thoughts, mate? Final thoughts?
Man, I hope we keep a clean sheet. You know, we've actually got a couple clean sheets recently. But I go with a 3-1. I think a 3-1. You know, we might go 2-0 up. You know, bring in subs later in the game, and they might, you know, whatever happens. They might nick a goal or whatnot. But yeah, I say 3-1.
Nice, yeah. Right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for all being on. Thank you. Oh, hang on. He's back.
This will redirect you straight to True City Fan. So put in the chat, Manquay Raid.
Yeah, please do that and support Pat, who was on earlier on, and he does some great content. It's always a pleasure to have him on the show, and hopefully we'll have him back again soon. We will see you on Sunday for the post-match. I think it'll be an 8, 8:30, depending on when Rich and Pat are available, because I will not be here, I'm afraid. I am working this weekend. I will not be available, but you'll have the likes of Martin, who's definitely back. Rich, are you going to be making an appearance?
I should be. It depends whether it's during my sleep time or my awake time. So,
I'm sure Martin will work around your sleep time, mate. You know, we know how precious it is to you.
And it also depends how late my Saturday night is, because I think I'm going out. So whether I'm going to be, you know, up at 4:30 watching City, you know, or watching them on a slight delay this Saturday, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. No, fair enough, mate. Well, Darmish, Ed, if you're available, guys, you're more than welcome. It's always great to have you on. Thank you so much for being on tonight. It's been a pleasure having you both on.
There you go. I didn't even know. I thought it was Sunday morning. It's Monday morning. So there you go.
Oh,
that makes it easier.
There you go, Rich. You get to have that line that you well deserve. So. Anyway, yeah, a big thank you again to everyone who's watched. Please don't forget to hit that like button. It does help the channel out massively. And if you're new, hit that subscribe and spread the word about the Mancunian way. We want to grow bigger and bolder, and it's only thanks to your help that we can do that. So again, thank you for everyone who's watched and put their comments in. It's for me, like hosting the show is really fun because I get to kind of direct how things go, and it's nice to get that experience and have that confidence to be able to kind of do it. So thank you for everyone who's showed their support tonight towards me. I appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, we'll see you Sunday night post-match. Good night.
Bye, everyone.